Tonight, we are digging into a dilemma that involves Vermont's services for developmentally disabled kids. Channel 3's Christina Gesford is live in the studio with this WCAX exclusive.
Darren and Kat, for 3 decades, the state of Vermont has prioritized deinstitutionalizing care for vulnerable populations, regardless of the severity of their disability. But what can families do when harmful behaviors escalate and their child is too challenging to control and keep safe? Tonight, I'm taking you to Essex to meet a curious and charismatic boy who's inspiring his parents to fight for a better future. It's a story you'll only see right here on Channel 3.
Down by the bay.
Music, a reliable remedy to ease Henry's restless mind. These therapy sessions are a weekly high note. The 10-year-old marches to the beat of his own drum. Sweet and spunky. But if Henry gets in even the smallest of jams, he can quickly change his tune.
He has, many forms of developmental disabilities, including intellectual disability, autism, ADHD. Obviously, the seizures, they affect his, motor skills, his communication skills, all of his skills, and they do cause regression.
Henry's screams and cries often fill the halls of the Langevin household. But it's his frequent and dangerous meltdowns that are so difficult for his mom, Leslie, dad, Eric, and 8-year-old younger brother, Zach, to manage.
Really, it's just this straight-out exhaustion. Henry is staffed 2-on-1 because he's physically so big. I mean, he's 100 pounds, and he's kind of a bull. So, we can't say no, we can't say stop. We're always engaging and keeping him personally safe. And then sometimes he can be aggressive, so it's keeping Zach safe and protecting our property. You're hypervigilant every step of the day. Almost every single night, Henry gets up 3 to 5 times, whether it's you're helping him with seizures or he might be trying to hit his head on his wall, if he has a headache.
He can overpower me now, and that's scary.
He can push me down.
He's getting bigger and stronger and taller. So we're just trying the best.
Yeah.
Henry has suffered several life-threatening seizures and feels chronic pain. The family of 4 has relied on state resources and nearly full-time personal caregivers since Henry was 5 years old. The Langevins say the small doses of respite still aren't enough to cure the chaos they endure daily. What does Henry mean to you?
Well, I love him, and he's little. Yeah. I talk to my therapist every week.
It wasn't until last fall that we kind of had reached this boiling point of oh my God, we need help.
The Langevins explored shared living providers for children with both developmental disabilities and medical complexities. They soon learned Vermont doesn't have one. The closest locations are hundreds of miles from their Essex home.
He's part of our family. He's our firstborn child. I think the thought of sending him away is gut-wrenching.
So when that seemed like the Langevins' only option, they decided to forge another path.
It really just came to me, and I was I'm going to build a therapeutic community residence in Vermont.
2-story, 3-bedroom home.
The now nonprofit is called Building Hope for Children. The proposal, a local modern farmhouse with sensory rooms, an accessible playground, a chef's kitchen and dining space, and a studio apartment for a 24/7 nurse. The program would provide on-site services including physical and occupational therapy, field trips and outdoor activities, plus psychiatric consultations and individual counseling. The cost comparative to similar out-of-state programs at between $225,000 to $250,000 per child. The most important principle, an open-door policy for families and friends. Through donations and grants, the Langevins are fundraising for $1.75 million. The goal, break ground next year.
Finally an opportunity to get to rest. I never get to.
The house is going to be beautiful. It's going to be like Disneyland. I wouldn't put my kid in anything less than that.
But for all its magical properties, the project could turn out to be just a fairy tale. On this journey, the Langevins will have to jump over significant legal hurdles to make that group home happen. A Vermont law established 3 decades ago in response to the state's shadowed past could put those plans in jeopardy. Tomorrow, I'll tell you why officials say as the proposal stands right now, it is not legally possible. Until the end of the 20th century, society segregated developmentally disabled people, hiding them behind brick walls. Vermont's policy, established in response to the state's shadowed past, is rooted in respect and dignity for people who've historically been dehumanized. And that policy could put the Langevins' plans in jeopardy.
The biggest taken away, I didn't belong there. That's the bottom line. I didn't belong there.
I wanted to be like normal, like everybody else.
Some former residents of the Brandon Training School remember their experience there fondly. Many reflect on the flaws. Founded as the Vermont State School for Feeble-Minded Children in 1915, the public institution once housed more than 600 people and served a total of more than 1,300 men, women, and children. The Brandon Training School's closure in 1993, proof of a paradigm shift in that philosophy. Then, in 1996, Vermont passed landmark legislation. 3 decades since the Development Disabilities, or DD Act, became state statute, officials firmly argue institutionalization is an archaic and detrimental approach.
What lessons learned from the Brandon Training School influenced this transition towards home care?
Persons with developmental disabilities or any disability are a valued and critical part to the heart of Vermont's communities.
Monica White is the Vermont Disabilities Aging and Independent Living Department Commissioner. Per the DD Act, Vermont only offers a variety of in-home family supports and community services for children.
The menu is large and it's tailored to the needs of each individual child and family. And by and large, that has been extraordinarily successful over the past 3 decades.
By codifying inclusion and integration, institutions for children are forbidden. The provision reads in part, children, regardless of the severity of their disability, need families and enduring relationships with adults in a nurturing home environment. The quality of life of children with developmental disabilities, their families, and communities is enhanced by caring for children within their own homes. White tells me she can't disclose exactly how many kids currently receive out-of-state residential care, but the number is less than 11.
Those out-of-state residential placements that do happen are typically very targeted, very short in duration for longer-term stabilization within the community back here in Vermont.
So does the Langevins' proposal deviate from that law?
A facility such as that does not sound like it would be in alignment with Vermont's current principles for developmental services.
But, White notes, the department hasn't yet received a formal proposal to officially make that determination.
That would have to be an exception to the normal rule.
An exception Ken Schatz asserts must be made. During his 6-year tenure as the Department for Children and Families Commissioner, Schatz facilitated some of those out-of-state placements. Often kids in abusive situations because their parents struggle to care for them. As a former state official, can you confidently say that this is a significant and serious gap in the state's system?
I believe it is.
Compelled by the Langevins' story, Schatz has joined the Building Hope for Children Board of Directors. He agrees the state should prioritize home and community-based services, but
there are a tiny number of children like Henry that really require more.
And Schatz says Building Hope for Children's concept illustrates the stark differences between the prison-like Brandon Training School and the Langevins' ambitious vision. If the state doesn't authorize the project, Essex representative and social worker Tanya Vihovsky vows to advocate at the Capitol during the upcoming legislative session to turn these renderings into a reality.
every one of those child's lives and experiences matter. And even if it's 3 children that would be otherwise out of state, those 3 children deserve to be in their home state surrounded by the people that love them. A lot of times we get really sort of stuck in this is the policy, this is the way it is, without thinking about, well, why is it that way? And are there ways that we need to change it to better meet the needs of people? And there is not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Now, back at home in Essex, the Langevins are leading that charge to change the state's system.
I hope for families like us that I can provide a service and a model that Vermont could take on.
This past legislative session, Vermont passed Act 186. It's a law that creates a pilot program which will award grants to 3 entities planning to build congregate housing for individuals with developmental disabilities. Anyone can submit a proposal, including the Langevins. But Dale Commissioner Monica White tells me she believes the legislation is intended for adult care, not children. Still, the language in the law does not specify, so the parameters are up for interpretation.